Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. This is my podcast. Appreciate you being here as usual. We got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. I'm going to try to make it quick in this intro. If you're watching on YouTube, first and foremost, I haven't been putting any intros on the video. It's just another step to add video to or intro with video. You know what I mean? It's easy to just come down and rip it on a mic real quick, but I've been trying to integrate some video into the podcast. For the people that have been listeners for a long time, this has mainly been an audio only podcast. It's been an easier way to do things over the last year. I record an audio file, chop it up, put it out for yinz, and it's a smooth process. But, being the fool that I am, I wanted to integrate some video into the podcast. I've been doing this for quite a while, and it's hard to get the name out there still. So I'm thinking, what am I doing with the podcast that other people, or what am I not doing that other people are doing? And I think it really is a video platform. I'm trying to incorporate video into the episodes, or I'm trying to incorporate the episodes into a video podcast so I can cut them up into clips, for social media and just kind of get the name out there a little bit. You know what I mean? As someone who's been doing this for 7 years, I still have a lot of people that have never heard about me, and I feel like it's a disservice to them. I don't know of another podcast in the city that is kind of doing what I'm doing as far as highlighting the nooks and the crannies of the city. You know what I mean? I really feel like that I'll Call You Right Back podcast is it's a wonderful service for the people of Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? As someone who is a patron of local businesses, I enjoy learning the stories behind the people that run them. You know what I mean? I really enjoy hearing people's stories to how they got to where they were or where they are today. And I just want to be, kind of a way to be able to help these people tell these stories on a bigger scale, and I think video content will kind of expose the podcast to a set of eyes that has not seen it yet. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain amount of people that just enjoy listening to podcasts, but I'm sure that there's enough people that want to watch it on YouTube, and that's where we are today. Like if you're listening right now on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it's obviously an audio file. Keep listening away, much appreciated. But we're trying to make it with YouTube as well. So if you want to hop over to the YouTube channel, now's your chance. For anyone, there's links in the bios right now. Hop over to YouTube and help me build this YouTube channel a little bit. I got some followers on there, but I want to keep it ripping. You know what I mean? I want to keep growing that. I want to keep utilizing the following that I have and keep exposing new people to all I'm doing with this podcast. And I feel like you could help. If you enjoy what you're watching, if you enjoy what you're listening to, if you enjoy it over these last years, share it to someone, share the podcast with someone that might not have heard about it. And if you're someone new to the podcast, I'm excited for you to be here because I really pour my heart and soul into this thing. And I think that once you see the product or once you listen to it, whatever you do, you're going to really understand that. But first and foremost, I just wanted to take a second to, really, put out a call to action for people. If you enjoy the podcast, do me this one service right now and share it to someone, like, subscribe, follow, and just do all those things that you could do. It's free to you. It's free for you guys to, support this channel. You could hit subscribe right now, wherever it is on this bottom bar. And it goes a long way. You know what I mean? It goes a long way to like this video. It goes a long way to put a comment on there. You know how the algorithm is nowadays. It's the Wild West, baby. We're getting crazy. We gotta pivot. We gotta pivot and move. But another thing that I got to talk about. Okay, so I got to talk about a couple more things. First and foremost, I plan events. I plan live events. If you've listened to the episode these last few weeks, you might have heard me talk about an adult field trip that I am planning for August 25th. I am here to tell you that it has since been postponed, unfortunately. That was a trip to Meadowcroft Village, which is a fantastic historical national landmark right in Avella. We are postponing this trip until a later date. We're going to figure out a date. Right now it's tentative. Right now it's not even tentative. It's just, it's TBD. But we're going to figure that out. I'm moving towards Halloween. You know, I really got to pivot to move towards Halloween to get these Halloween field trips scheduled. I got some plans this year to do. I'm going to team up with the Berg Bus again. We're going to go hit a couple of haunted houses, all in one night. You know, I'm going to sell a ticket. We're going to both, you know, we're going to go to 2 haunted houses. I'm going to get you there, get you back. You could have some beers along the way. It's going to be a good time. I know I don't got more details for you right now, but you could follow me at I'll Call You Right Back. That's on Instagram. That's where I'm mainly active. You know, you could find it on, you know, Facebook, but who's on Facebook but a bunch of old people? No offense to old people. Anyway, follow me on there. It will keep you up to date with all the things that I'm doing. But beyond, you know, canceling this field trip right now or postponing it, I have to, you know, I'll get to the reason that everyone is here this week. You know, this week we're sitting down with a really, really great guest. This week I sit down with a guy named Mike Potoczny. Now, Mike Potoczny is a mover and a shaker in the bicycle world. He is someone that is very important to the bicycle scene in Pittsburgh, but beyond that, he's just someone who's been involved with it his entire life. You know, his dad is was a professional motocross rider, Marty Potoczny. He was a big deal back in the day. I'm sorry I don't know more about Marty, but I know that he was a motocross rider. He was a professional. So you got to imagine having a father who's a professional motocross rider, where Mike and his siblings, you know, just have this resource of this motocross guy to just, you know, kind of get crazy from a young age. You know, as a kid, you know, I'm sure as you would probably guess, I'm sure there was dirt bikes riding around. You know, I'm sure there was bikes everywhere. You know, these kids had probably a different resource to some crazy stuff like building these dirt jumps and everything. But either way, Mike comes over and he talks to me about his life riding on a bicycle. You know, he is someone who is very active in Bike Pittsburgh, but most of you will be familiar with him through the Wheel Mill. Now, the Wheel Mill is an indoor bicycle park that recently just closed, unfortunately. You know, this is a sadness because it's the only bike park that was in Pittsburgh, and it was called the Wheel Mill, and it was in Homewood. Mike was involved with the Wheel Mill since inception. He has been there, and it opened in 2013. He quickly climbed the ranks to being the general manager, but beyond the general manager, Mike was also someone who went to great lengths to make biking more accessible to all sorts of people. The Wheel Mill did classes that were Bike Like a Girl classes. They do summer camps, they do lessons, they do all sorts of things on top of just being a bike park. You know, he was a big proponent in trying to educate people on biking in general. And in fact, he was so good at it that in 2022, Bike Pittsburgh noticed him as the educator of the year. So, I mean, this guy has just lived and breathed biking his entire life. And whenever the Wheel Mill closed, you know, that was a chapter in his life that just closed. And they needed to find another solution, just like they did before. They are looking for a location now to open this spot. Obviously, to open a bicycle park, you have to have a big warehouse that has, you know, the resources for you to put in all these ramps. So it is a process, obviously, as you could think. Right now, Mike is currently running a way to help fundraise this new bike park as they find this location. You can go on Instagram at TBA Bike Park, and you could click the link in the bio, and they have a merch sale. So you could buy some t-shirts right now. That money goes all towards the park and in their journey of finding this new location for the TBA Bike Park. Now, I know that this was a long intro. I know that we went over a lot, but once again, please take a second to follow Mike. You know, you could scroll down, you could click on his name to learn more. You could click on, you know, all the other links on there to know more. You could click on the t-shirt link to purchase a t-shirt, the whole thing. You know how to use the internet. Now, be resourceful, support these people in the new venture that they're doing with the TBA Bike Park. And without further ado, episode 285 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Michael Potoczny.
Telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. I'll call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll call you right back podcast. Appreciate you coming over to do this.
Oh, we need to talk about the bike park as much as possible. So it's
I know I'm trying to catch up on all this stuff that's going down. I mean, I was never a bike guy, so like I was never really in touch with any of that, sort of world. Mm-hmm. I've since became a bike guy thanks to COVID. I bought a bike with my Donnie dollars, and now I just fucking love it.
What kind of bike do you have?
I have a Surly Bridge Club.
Sick.
Yeah, nice little cruiser. Yeah. I just wanted like a little beach cruiser type that was like comfortable. I'm a big dude, so
did Cottle help you get it?
No, actually, this was. I think that me and Cottle's meeting happened after I got my bike. I met him at the point during COVID, after knowing that he was like someone in the beer scene, interviewed him. But then, after I got my bike and, started to get more in touch with that world, then obviously Cottle was who I called upon to ask all the questions. Yeah. But I met him, I guess, I don't know if I met him first through the beer thing or through the bike thing, but it's interesting to think about. Known him for a while now, though. You've known him for a long time?
Oh, forever. So I've known Cottle since I was like 14 years old-ish. So this scene, the bike riding scene in Pittsburgh, for some reason is friends with people from Orlando, Florida. And it really stems from like we go down there and ride in winter, and then they come up here in summer to escape the heat. So, for when I was in high school, I would go on my winter break, go ride for 2 weeks, then fly back home. And my older brother would stay down there and party and hang out and ride. But I'd have to come back to school. So I'd fly back, go to school.
Yeah.
And, he was the first person we stayed at their house in Florida, and it was Cottle's house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like 14 or 15 years old. So
how old are you now?
35. So okay. 20 years. Yeah.
Is Mark older than you?
Yeah. A lot of people don't think that, but
I honestly, I had no idea. I assumed that you were older for some reason. Yeah. I think that you have I think as I scrolled through your Instagram, I just took, your role as what you're doing. At the wheel mill?
The wheel mill was where I was working. Yeah, at one point. Yeah,
and like I think of it as like a figure of authority. So I'm like, this dude's older for sure.
We always call me a younger, bigger brother.
That's what mine is. Like my brother's 6 years older than me, and he calls me big bro.
Yeah, Mark's 4 years older than me. So yeah,
you guys always been in bikes?
Yeah. So our dad was a professional motocross racer through like the 70s, 80s. And he was never like super successful, but he was like sponsored by, motorcycle companies, motorcycle shops, had like support, he traveled around America, and he was always just like the guy in 15th, 10th and like making some money. Like he was always the best local dude, but when you're a local dude out of all America, that means you're top 50, so then you're battling it out wherever you're going. So unfortunately, he never had like the breakthrough, but it's crazy the people he raced. Like if you love motocross, like he raced this guy named Bob Hanna, who's like a legend. And like my dad, he was getting 15th to Bob Hanna, but Bob Hanna was, like lined up next to him. Yeah. He's like, he's like Tony Hawk. He's like those kind of people, So my dad got to race that kind of person.
I was just going to say, he was like, he was racing. It wasn't like woods riding or anything, right?
No, he did some of that, but going back to like our stories, like my brother and I, like, we were destined to bike ride. Like I rode a bike at 3 years old. I had a dirt bike at 3 years old.
Yeah.
So like we grew up on 50 acres of land out by the airport in like Hopewell area. And just immediately my dad was like, you want to build jumps? And so like we had this carte blanche life when, we were very lucky. Like we could do whatever we wanted. We had 50 acres of land. We had a dirt bike track on our property. We had a BMX track on our property. And, we weren't wealthy, but we were wealthy in like a resource. Like we could do whatever we wanted. And it was, an amazing childhood. Like I was actually homeschooled till 6th grade.
Really?
And I literally did school till 12 o'clock, ate lunch, rode the rest of the day.
Wow.
For like years. But I ended up going to public school eventually. But till 6th grade, I just essentially rode my bike.
Only you and your brother?
I have an older brother, and they went back and forth between like a private school, homeschool, and then as my parents, like, you know, the generations evolved, and you know, like both parents had to work at some point. When my mom had to go to work, she was like, "You guys are going to private school, or not private school, public school," because she's like, "We can't afford private school, and we can't, you know, I can't homeschool you."
Yeah.
And so then, you know, then we went to school, but
That's wild. 6th grade, huh?
Yeah.
I feel like the idea of homeschooling now is, you know, I feel like it's more acceptable now, but like it was interesting back then. First guy I interviewed who was homeschooled was a UFC fighter named Kama Worthy.
Wow.
He's not in the UFC anymore, but he owns a MMA gym here. But him and his whole, I think he had like 6 or 7 siblings. They were all homeschooled, which is, it's wild. Do you think that as someone who was homeschooled till 6th grade, do you think that was a benefit? Do you think there was any sort of detriment to that?
There was one detriment was I actually was dyslexic, and that's like I had such reading problems at that time. My mom was like, we have to get you help. And I was getting help before that, but there was even more resources at like a public school to help me further. But I didn't get the help I needed, but at least so you have like advisors when you're homeschooled, like a teacher, like, and it's probably different now, but back then a teacher would come check your work, make sure like you have the right curriculum, yada, yada, yada. And they were just like, "Oh, Pam, like Mike needs help," you know? And eventually, like, as they were discovering that, they took me to like, you know, just some programs, and I had like, just different like therapies and stuff, but I needed more. So then I went to public school, and actually I thrived. Like, it was funny. I went from having trouble reading because I had dyslexia, and I got the help I needed. In 7th grade, I was the highest reader on. Did you have AR points when you were a kid?
AR? No.
As accelerated reader, and you read, and I won like ice cream prizes and all this stuff because I had so many points from like reading so many books. But like, it was funny. I went from like, you know, reading very basic books, and then I got the skills I needed, and I was like, wow, reading.
Are you a big reader still?
Not right now. I actually studied history in college. And we read so much because you have to read. It's history.
Yeah.
And I also studied political science, and I read so much that like I was burnt out.
I bet.
And like I go through waves. Like I'll read 6 books in like 2 months, and then I won't read for a year. Like, and then I'll just be like, I want to read again, and then I'll just like crank out a bunch of books. But you know, when you're a history student, you were reading like 15 books a semester, maybe more.
Dense shit.
Yeah. Super dense stuff, and you're just like, ugh. And you know, so over college, you read 150 books, you know, or more, you know, and you were just toast.
Well, so, I mean, like going through school, I mean, you said you started to go through public school. I mean, you guys are riding bikes and motorcycle or dirt bikes the whole time?
Oh, yeah. So, got more competitive, and
yeah, like when does that first start, like competing?
You can start early, like Mark, I think started at 4-ish, 3-ish, something like that. And
bikes or dirt bikes?
Both.
Okay.
And then I started racing dirt bikes at 3. And then for some reason, my brother and I liked BMX more. And I think it's because we stole one of my uncle's friend's BMX videos when we were like really little. It's this legendary video called Juvenile Trickery. And we still have it to this day, which is funny. But so we for some reason we're like, oh, we want to ride BMX, and my dad didn't have that much money at that time, and dirt biking is expensive, and he's like, I'll buy you a BMX bike tomorrow, let's go. And we got a BMX bike, and at 6 I started racing BMX, and then just went up, you know.
Were you guys racing at like South Park and stuff?
South Park, and then went to like state level and national level, and did like the national championships and that kind of stuff for a while. And then I got sort of burnt out. Like I was a pretty good expert rider. Like I'd be top 10, top 15 in the nation for multiple years. But then,
when are you burnt out? How old are you?
Like 14.
Okay.
Because you're like
every weekend, all the time, just on bikes.
Your kids have like other kids in your class have diets. They're like training at the gym, and you're like, I'm 14. Like I want to go get my first kiss or something. You know, like I don't want to be like, I just want to go like throw sticks in the woods. You know, so
for
like
sure, eat some gushers.
Yeah, it is crazy watching everyone grow this way, and I've watched thousands of kids grow this way. So like even as we start talking through like bike park stuff, like my goal is to make kids not burn out.
Yeah.
So because I went through it, you know what I mean? So like, you know, we had sponsors and all this stuff, and we're 14 years old. Like,
yeah, there's a fine line between like, you know, passion and then like, you know, beating it to death. It's almost like, you know, the stereotypical. I knew a lot of people that were wrestlers growing up.
Yep.
And it was just like, these kids are middle school kids that are just like wearing trash bags
and spitting in the cups.
This dude used to chew paper in school, eat laxative. I've watched him puke, and you're like in middle school and you just want to go somewhere on a Friday and eat pizza and play Halo.
Exactly.
And it's just wild because, so it's easy to understand why you would get burnt out. Oh, yeah. Now, besides biking, are you like someone that's into school?
Oh, I love school. Yeah.
Okay.
I love learning. I'm I honestly, I haven't went to grad school yet, but I want to go to grad school for fun. So but I don't want to pay for it. So eventually, hopefully I work for some company that will pay for it or something.
For sure.
But, I love education, and I'm like a huge advocate. When anybody talks crap on education, I'm like, whoa. Well, let's talk here.
What's like your trajectory as you're getting into middle school and high school? Like, do you have any idea what you want to do as a career?
What's weird is I was always like a leader, and I was debating going to like law and then maybe into politics actually and that kind of stuff. But as I went through that process, I went to college. I decided to study history and political science as a pre-law, or I could be a teacher. I also love just education, so I would love to be a teacher eventually. But also, we'll talk later about my bike riding life. I am a bike riding educator, so I ended up being
educator of the year.
Yeah, actually, yeah. You did your research, yeah.
I do my research. 2022, Pittsburgh, educator of the year.
Yeah.
So you going through school, how? Was there a point where you broke off from biking all the time?
Yeah. So, you were in bands, right?
No, I was never in a band. I was in the world.
You were in the world? Okay.
I was in the world. Okay. Pretty heavy in the world. Best friends were in bands forever.
Nice. I always loved bike riding, but I never liked being defined as just a bike rider. And it just like a thing a lot of bike riders only do bike riding. They don't focus on anything else. They're not aware of other things. And it's just like anybody in any other sport. You're just focused. And that's how you get good. You have to focus. And I liked being more of a well-rounded person. So, I actually, through my college life, I veered away from bike riding a little bit and really just enjoyed getting educated and meeting new people and doing that kind of stuff. So
having a life experience.
Yeah. So I didn't want to just be going to college and be going to a contest every weekend. And I I went to contests.
Were you doing this through high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually, in high school, I was bike riding just nonstop, traveling, riding, bike riding, going to contests.
So after you said at 14 you were getting burnt out a little bit. So you still never quit?
No. So there's different levels of bike riding.
Yeah.
And that was the race world. So there's the race world is just very training focused. It's in the Olympics. Well, freestyle's in the Olympics too now, but it's an Olympic sport. People are training. It's more, I want to win. You know what I mean? So as life goes on, a lot of BMXers change their mind from racing and winning, and freestyle riding is more like a jam band. It's somebody that just nothing's right, nothing's wrong. You can ride a bike however you want. And that's really what freestyle bike riding is, you see this hump or you see this tabletop or this jump and you do whatever the heck you want on it. So I veered that way and actually started doing more contests and just having fun in that sense. And that's really what I've been doing since I was 15 is more freestyle than racing.
Okay.
And I raced a little bit at 16, 17, but just it proved me wrong again. I was I don't I don't not like racing. I just don't like the serious nature of it.
You just like other things more.
Yeah, exactly. So riding is just freestyle riding is just this free spirited, you do whatever the heck you want, whatever feels good. You can do little turns in the, the driveway if you want, who cares? Or you can go hit a jump and go, 20 foot in the air, whatever you want to do, so, most bike riders, that is a typical, trajectory is you get serious, then you get burnt out, and then you refine the fun after you were done, trying to, race and win. But, bike riding now also freestyle. There's contests, freestyles in the Olympics, you can go down that route, but now freestyle, it's sort of there's indie rock and there's sellout rock. You know what I mean? It's just there's some people that are just doing it for fun and there's some people that are doing it for real, but they all cohabitate and have fun. They're still having it for fun, the people trying to be in the Olympics, but
I get what you're saying.
They're just a little more serious. They're working out, they're training, they're trying to learn new tricks, but the thing about freestyle is it's whatever the heck you want, and that's like the beautiful nature of it.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever you were growing up, were you one of the BMXers that were? Don't worry about that. Were you one of the people that were? Were you one of the BMXers that were like foes of the skateboarders? Like, did you guys butt heads, or were you one of the people that cohabitated with them?
I cohabitated, but skaters always just were biased towards bike riders, and that was always something I've hated apart like from the industry, because it's like all ships rise. So if we all were there advocating for skate parks and bike parks and facilities,
rising
and all
tide
this
lifts
stuff,
all boats,
and skaters weren't having it, man. And the modern skaters are for it, and in the majority, but there's still this lingering old school mentality, and it just kills me. Like, I like a lot of skaters, and I like a lot of like I watch a lot of skate videos. I like what they do, but it bums me out that they like judge someone just off like bike riding. And it's
let me ask you this. Do you think that your thoughts on that, do you think they're somewhat swayed because you were in the biking world? Because as someone who grew up in the skating world, I had the experience that bike riders were kind of like, cold to us as well. And I feel like if you ask anyone that, obviously whatever world you're in, it's going to be, you're going to look at it from a different lens than the other one. But I was just curious because I remember that specifically back in the day. If we would go anywhere, it would be kind of, it would be a big dick measuring contest or something like
Which
that.
skate park were you at?
I mean, we would go everywhere. We would go
Butterbean?
We would go to B Cubed. I mean, the Edge whenever it was, or not the Edge, but PA Cheap Skates whenever it was over by the batting cages. Things like that. There was McKinley. There was Peach Plaza. All these places. What's Carnegie? But then we would go to like the banks and stuff like that. But I was never really in like the woods jumping world. Like we had jumps right down to the Boston Trail where I grew up in McKeesport.
I've seen them.
So it's like that's about like my biggest exposure that I had to it. There was kids in high school that like raced in South Park. So like I would see all that. But I don't know, as far as like my experience with it all, it was always just like two different worlds. You were right, they never really intertwined.
I have a lot of theories on this.
That's fine.
It's a lot of like thrasher mentality, and it's like definitely preached if you read the magazine that BMXers are the problem and all of these things. And like I have friends that are in thrasher, and like they're my friends, so like it's very interesting them, if you read the older magazines, them preaching like the hate and all of this stuff. And if you read the BMX media, it never like preached hate. So like if you look at like the mass media was preaching like hate towards BMX, but in BMX it was rarely like preaching hate towards skate. So like
that's fair.
It's very interesting. And then skate sort of had their shit together a little bit deeper than BMXers, and they started the ones going to municipalities and be like, hey, we'll build you a skate park. And then they started doing these things where like, well, we won't insure your park if you let bikes in. And they did all these things, and then like we couldn't ride in certain parks because they wouldn't give the municipality insurance.
Like what? Is there any examples that are local?
Oh my God, what is that one park? It's a lot of the California skate parks, like in California.
Okay, that makes sense.
A ton of those, because that's where a lot of it started. There's a group called California Skate Parks out there, and that's something that they did. So there's one specific one in the Pittsburgh region, and I can't remember right
That's
now.
interesting that's like that's what it is. I mean, like do you think that still carries on to today, or do you think it's more of like
like Team Pain does it? Like a bunch of people still will do that and say like we won't give you this warranty if you let in bikes.
Wow.
Yeah. So because they say of course bikes damage it, they have metal edges and that kind of stuff, but a truck is made of the same metal. So
for sure.
But pigs they can chink the side and put a hole in it, but
that's like the hill that they're dying on to like, that's kind of weird. I've been way out of the loop on, either world for a long time, but that's interesting to think about that.
And it's just like, it's so interesting because we're trying to do the same thing at the same place, and we're just trying to have fun and do something we think feels cool. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's kind of sad that we have to like bicker about it. Like, I try not to bicker. Like when we were starting the wheel mill, I literally told the owners, like, we're going to make some of this skate friendly. They don't have a place to skate like in the city. So this was 12 years ago before Switch and Signal existed. So there's no indoor place. And it's like, if we can Masonite the Mini and whatever else, and just say like, hey, you can skate whatever's Masonite. Cool. You know, and we actually gave them half off, you know, because they didn't have as much
That's cool.
places to ride. So like, I didn't want to be that guy. So I was just like, no, we're gonna let skate in, and like that way in winter, at least if they want to come pay $10 and cruise around a little bit on the mini,
Yeah.
sick.
Have something to do at least.
Yeah. So like, we actually spent more money to
Yeah.
let them come in.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting to think about that because, you know, I mean, even like the different cliques of skaters was also like unwelcoming.
Yeah.
You know, like I interviewed One Up at one point, and
Which era of One Up?
so I interviewed Greg and Brandon.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So I saw both ends, but, you know, I interviewed Greg and I knew whenever Greg ran it, whenever it was down on Carson, you know, we didn't go there because they were fucking assholes, you know, straight up. Any outsider, we just never felt welcome there. There was never a good reception. But then, you know, as years go on and you become an adult and you frequent down there a little bit more, it becomes a little bit more relaxed. But, you know, from a very young age, I distinctly remember that. But then I meet Brandon, who took over One Up, and he was great. You know, I nothing but great things to say about him. And, you know, it seemed to be a more welcoming community in the later years for sure, but in the early years, I definitely could see where you're saying that. It's just interesting to hear from like someone who was in like that was immersed in the bike world to know about that, because that's like lore that would always happen.
Yeah.
But that's interesting.
I've been places like FDR and people throw skateboards at us. Like
Yeah.
that is just what used to happen, and it doesn't happen that way anymore.
Yeah.
Like 15 years ago, we did a trip up the Oregon coastline, and like Oregon is like notoriously skate, and like we were riding some skate park completely empty, and 3 trucks like roll up and dudes get out and they're just like, you got to get the F out of here. We're going to kick your ass. And we're just like, we're just riding, dude.
Yeah.
And like, it's crazy that somebody wants to bring you physical harm for like riding, and there's a small chance you might mess something up.
Yeah.
Like, small. And I get it. Like some of those people, we were in small towns in Oregon, and it takes a while to get a skate park built. There's a lot of loopholes. It's pricey. It's millions of dollars, you know. All
Yeah,
that
but then
stuff.
people were just going to lengths to be assholes at some points.
Yeah, and it's bred an old like mentality, like, and that's through like the bike parks that I run and in the programs I've done. Like, we're trying to break all of those mentalities. Like,
For sure. I mean,
so
you
there
got
used
to
to be dudes. Like, I always tell every kid I teach, I'm like, you don't understand how lucky you are. Like, I grew up in an era from the guys that were like my old head, not old heads, like the guys I looked up to were from the 90s.
Yeah.
They're from the 90s, and they were rough dudes. You know, like we were at McKinley one day, and a kid just like, one of my friends cut off one of like the bigger guys, and he literally grabbed his bike and was like, don't do that again, and grabs his handlebar. And then the kid does something stupid again and cuts him off. He grabs his bike and throws it over that fence at McKinley, and he says, you can go get it when you learn how to like share at the skate park.
It's
And, like,
overwhelming.
so like, think like, that is insane that we like would go through that, you know? And we were like 12, 13, whatever it was. And we're just like, I never want a kid to go through that. Granted, they need to learn, and they need to learn to like be respectful and all that stuff. But we try it a little softer, which
Yeah,
I
a little
guess
softer.
that's this era. But you know, like if you used to cut people off, sometimes someone would just crash into you on purpose.
Yeah,
Like,
it was wild. Shit was just. I've seen someone's boards get faced like numerous times, and like it's weird to think about that. It's South Park, and I don't know the whole of what it was, but I just saw someone just snap someone's board and just like walk away like it was nothing. That was like probably one of my first or second experiences at a skate park. But I was never even.
And you stayed in.
Well, I mean, I was never like someone that was like riding super heavy. It's just like I had friends that like all of my friends were just like in the world. Same with the bands. I was always just like, you know, gravity did not do well with me. I was just always a big dude. Played football, but like my buddies had mini ramps in their backyards. You know, I was ingrained in the culture, but like I was an observer. But either way, so you get through high school. Like what are you doing? You know, what are you doing as an adult? Like what are you doing out of high school?
Out of high school?
Yeah, like through high school. Like what are you focusing on doing? Like what are you going to think you're doing for a career?
I was into bike riding a lot. You know,
Did you think that was going to be something that was going to pay bills?
Maybe. I mean, I was like, my brother was on a better trajectory than me. Like my brother, in the freestyle sense, went further than me, but like we were both doing some stuff, and for some reason my brain just like sort of changed, and I was like, like I didn't pursue trying to be like a pro bike rider. I just like, I had a lot of fun with it and just did a lot of traveling, and like I sort of saw that you could travel the world even being like a semi-pro or like a below semi-pro, but if you like are in the industry and you know people, like you can do a lot. And with my brother, like we just traveled around America and the world like nonstop for like 3 or 4 years and just did it as much as we could. And we kept it going, but there was like certain years where we were gone for like 3 months at a time, like 3 months a year, just
riding bikes,
ripping everywhere we could. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
So like from pretty much my senior year of high school through college, I would be gone a month or two of summer. I'd be gone a month or two of winter and just be traveling and riding as much as I could.
Where'd you go to college?
Point Park University.
For
downtown.
what?
History and political science.
Oh yeah. History and political science down there.
Yeah.
Were they known for that?
No.
I didn't think so.
It was a fun school to be a part of. My program wasn't the best. We had some great teachers, but you went all 4 years? Yeah, but my life was dictated. That was by scholarship.
Okay.
So like the scholarship was like, I got into other schools, but I got a really good scholarship to Point Park, and my parents were like, yeah, that's where you gotta go. And I was just like, okay. But I actually I did a lot of theater too as well, and I was actually going to minor in theater.
Oh wow!
And
my biggest regret is never doing theater or never being in a band. Biggest regret in my life.
It does help you. I mean, just the littlest thing helps you. Speak in the community. Do anything. Like
you never did theater until college.
No, I did my whole high school career. I was actually in like 13 productions in high school as well.
No shit. Are you acting in them?
Oh yeah. I directed some. I acted some.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. So like none of my parents are like.
Yeah, like what did they do?
My parents were like relatively artistic, but like my dad was an auto body man.
Okay.
And he was always good at like art because like he painted cars. Like he can paint a car and match a car like no other. You know what I mean? He's awesome. He's done it for 40 some years.
Yeah.
And my aunt was sort of artistic, and my older brother is like a lighting designer, an event planner. So like, he's a very artistic person as well. But for some reason in 8th grade, my friend and I like jokingly tried out for Romeo and Juliet in 8th grade, and I got Romeo.
No shit.
And my first play, I was the lead. And I was like, oh my God.
That's it.
And then he got like Jester too.
Yeah. Tree in the background.
And it was so funny. And I was just like, all right. And I did it and I liked it. And then high school, they had classes for it in clubs. And
That's so awesome.
Just did it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're doing theater at Point Park? Like, did they have like...
So I was going to, so you have to audition and do all this stuff for like a minor. I was just going to get a minor, but I ended up just like seeing what the minor program had, and I just didn't like it. So I ended up just then switching to getting a minor in political science. Well,
so I mean, like going to school for that, like what is your idea of what you're going to do after school?
For history of political science?
Yeah, like what did you want to do in a perfect world?
I was maybe going to go to law school, and I had some, like through college, I had some great advisors that were lawyers. They were, some were politicians, some were state reps, and it was awesome. These people gave me their time. Like I'd meet with like the mayor's like chief of staff, and they would give me advice about like, their route, how they went to law school, what it was. And like through our conversation, it literally was like, oh, it's not for me. Yeah, but it was awesome that I had an advisor that helped me not go through that process. Like I ended up not like, imagine if I just went to law school and hated it. Yeah. Just because I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. What
kind of law did you think you wanted to do?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just discovering that though. But like, I don't know. Like I always was into that kind of stuff and like politics. Like in college, I was our student body president. In high school, 8th grade to 12th grade, I was our student body president. And for some reason, it was just like an internal thing. I don't know. I just did it. I don't know if it's because I'm tall, but like
you give off a certain vibe, like like you said, you're leader type deal.
I just always liked it, and that was just me, like.
Well, how does like you graduate from Point Park? What happens after that? Obviously not a lawyer.
Yeah, I decided not to go to law school, and then literally a week after I get out of school, this guy who wants to open up the wheel mill. One of my friends goes to this open meeting, and he's like, hey, this guy's starting the bike park, and he doesn't know that much about BMX. He's a mountain biker. You should go talk to him.
What year did you graduate? 2012?
12, yeah.
Okay.
And I actually tore down B Cubed with a couple of my friends.
Wow.
And I had B Cube stashed. Like my brother and I tore it down. There was these other brothers, Kyle and Taylor McCrory. They had the other part of B Cubed, and we had it stored. And
Taylor McCrory. I feel like
he's from this region.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say, yeah, I know that name.
Yeah. He went to what's the school on the highway on 79?
Was it not Canamac?
Yeah, they went to Canamac.
Okay, Canamac. Yeah.
But like they had it and we had the other side of the park and we were just sitting on it because like we were all like 22, 23. We didn't have money to like start a skate park yet.
Were you just like going to B Cube all the time? Is that like why you were involved? Okay.
Yeah, so like we were.
Who was the owner of that?
Jim Reese.
Jim Reese.
Jim Reese, I think his name was.
Okay.
Or is it what the builder? A guy named Jim. I think it was Jim Reese. But he decided to get rid of the skate park and like my brother and I helped maintenance it because we were like there for a long time. We used to help like summer camp programming there and give them some advice and help them throw events. And so then when they were like closing down, they offered it to like Round 2, which is an old bike shop, and like us to take it, and we took it. So and then we stashed it. And we're
Who's
like,
us?
My brother and I, and then Kyle and Taylor took the rest.
Okay, yeah.
And then actually, it's funny. I was from Hopewell, and a skater from that scene took the bowl. If you remember the bowl in the back.
I remember it.
Yeah, it was in Hopewell, just in the backyard too. So like pretty much all of B Cubed was like in Hopewell or with Kyle and Taylor.
Why did that close down? Was it because of insurance reasons, like the cost of insurance? I feel like someone told me that.
I was young at that point, but it was funny. The owner always talked shit on BMXers and in skaters. He's like, "Oh, I hate them," like and all this stuff. And we're like, "Why do you have it?" And he's like, "Well, we make some money." And it's like he was just never into it. And I don't know like what was the the final like nail, but they're just like, "Yeah, we're done."
Yeah,
and they got rid of it and. It sucked. Remember how you went up those stairs?
Yeah.
You had to carry all those ramps down that stairs.
Jesus.
And we had to like cut ramps so we can get them out the door.
Yeah, around the bends and stuff.
And we were like, being 22, 23, we're dumb and just did it. I forget how old we were.
Where were you guys going to put all this shit?
So at my parents' land.
Okay,
we just put like 40 pallets on the ground, put all the ramps there, bought like 25 tarps, zip tied them together, threw it over it, and then just sat on it. But we set some up at my parents' property, which I'll show you later. But we set some up and we rode it. But we were like waiting on trying to find an affordable warehouse for us 22 to 25-year-old kids to.
So this is you and your brother and
some friends, yeah.
And some friends. But and the guy who ended up opening the wheel mill was just someone that they came across through a meeting.
Yeah. So like, you may have seen the Hallahan brothers before. They're like these young. They're not young anymore. They're 21 and 20, and they their dad like we like actively just like mentored their kids with their dad, and their dad saw this post on Facebook like, I want to start a bike park. I have a lease for a place. I'm going to start one. And he was just like, he was working down the street. He's like, I'll go. And he talked to him and saw this open meeting. He's like, whoa, this guy actually has a warehouse and he has like some money lined up. And I was young, I was 22 or 3. And I had no money. And so I just went and talked to him. And I was like, well, I have a 10,000 square foot warehouse sitting at my parents' house under a tarp rotting away. Like, let's put it in here. And then it just tumbleweeded from there. But like that's like what ignited the BMX portion of the wheel mill.
So originally it was going to be at your parents' property. Is that what you were saying?
No, like we just had it stored there. Like,
okay, yeah,
like
yeah.
We as like BMXers in the city, like my brother and my friends, like we wanted to make a warehouse, like rent a warehouse and just put a skate park.
Yeah, but you were just storing that until you could find the place to put it.
And we needed some money to rent. Like we were 22, 23. Like we had like $1,000. You know what I mean?
So who was the guy who opened this?
His name's Harry Geyer.
And what's his background? Why did he want to open a bike park?
He's a lifelong bike rider that loved bike riding. And
from Pittsburgh?
His family's from Pittsburgh, but he was like from all over. He lived around. And then he went to Ray's Mountain Bike Park. It's in Cleveland, Ohio, and he like loved it.
What's that? Is that an indoor park?
Yeah, it's an indoor bike park, but imagine just like it's 200,000 square feet of bikes.
Holy shit.
It's insane. So like it's just this like
that's been around for a long time?
Like 25 years now.
I don't know if I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, it's a bike riding thing. Like it's like one of the most amazing magical bike riding places. Like even I'm now like 30 years old in bike riding terms and I still like laugh and get giddy just like riding around this place. You know what I mean? And like I've ridden millions of ramps.
Well, let me ask you this. So this guy who, wants to open this bike park, I mean, Is there any other bike parks in the city at that point?
No. I mean, there's not one right now. So,
Yeah.
So bike parks are like a gem, and they're really hard to make because you need a huge warehouse, and they usually have ramps that are like beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So they'll have like a 2-foot jump, a 3-foot jump, a 5-foot jump, a 6-foot jump. And to build all of that, it has to be expansive. Like it has to be 60,000 square foot plus, and that isn't cheap. So depending on like your area's bike riding demographic, what is also in a 3 to 4 hour radius, that'll dictate if these things can like succeed. Like while there was the wheel mill, we saw like 10 bike parks close around America, which is like horrifying because you're like, oh shit, are we in the wrong business? You know what I mean? And it's a crazy thing to make because also a lot of skate parks closed. Think BQ, Butterbeans, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure.
All these skate parks have closed, but they're like a necessity for a scene to be built and fostered, and for kids to learn, and also the guy doesn't throw your bike over the fence. Like you need this like home.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
That's sort of what we're like reeling with right now. Is like, oh, we don't have this friendly home.
Yeah, you got all these people that just needs a place to do this. So you guys, team up, and you guys eventually, how did you find where the wheel mill was?
Just from the Hallahans saying like, hey, like you should meet up with this guy. So then I got a meeting set up with him. I went and talked with him, and I was like, yeah.
Oh, that guy already had that warehouse.
He had it.
Oh, shit. Okay. I thought that this guy wanted to do it. No. I didn't know that he had the warehouse.
So it was wild. He had he had the rental agreement signed.
Where's this at?
In Homewood.
Okay.
So like if you're on Hamilton Avenue going deeper into Homewood, like right when you're entering into Homewood, it's right there.
Okay.
There's this recycling plant. It's like right next to
it. What was it before this?
Oh, it was like the building's like 100 years old. It was a door factory. It was a ladder factory. It was a steel factory. There was a steel company that built it out to like what we had.
Yeah.
And they got so big, they moved, I think, to Blawnox. And it's funny, that owner of that company rides mountain bikes, and he came and rode, and he's like, holy shit, what? And it was like, he's like, this used to be my office. And we're like, well, let's go ride in your office.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So you guys, you team up with him, and like, how does it go from there?
So, we were young. We're just like, oh, we want a place to ride for this scene. Like it was coming out of like, we just want a place to ride. So we're like, we'll lend you these ramps. You can use these as much as you want, and we just want to ride for free. Like we can help you design, build, do whatever you want. Like we were just building ramps for fun before that. Like my parents' house, we had like a Spine Mini and miscellaneous quarter pipes and some boxes and stuff. So like I was building wooden ramps since I was like 13, 14. And then I was building dirt jumps since I was like 6.
Yeah.
So I was like, we can help you. Like, let's do it. Like, and I ride a bunch of ramps all over America. I have this base of knowledge. Let's look at what's good, what's bad, and make something good.
Yeah. Like give me some creative freedom to cultivate something good.
So then I was like, I had this like weird job out of college at my college. They like let me work for 2 months. And when that was like, I was just like helping at the wheel mill. And then when that was riding out, I was like, hey, like I got to go get a job. Like if you need someone to help you, I can like build all these ramps. And he was like, okay. So then, then we started actually hiring people to build ramps and going from there. And my brother and I and a friend, his name's Josh Peckage, started to design a lot of more of the BMX end stuff. And we literally went from there. And then I went, years and years. And I was,
how long does
general manager.
How long does it take from whenever you guys first meet him to whenever it opens?
Like 9 months ish.
Okay.
8 months ish.
Well, what was like the build out like? Was it like a big deal? Was it super difficult to do?
Like a blitz, man. Like, so it was funny. Like my brother and I and a lot of my friends, we had a lot of
give people a little background.
Okay.
Well, you say your brother, your brother, it's not just like someone regular doing. Like he's a very accomplished bike rider.
Yeah. My brother, his name's Mike Potoczny, and he, he's an amazing dirt jump rider. Like he's won awards. Like
what was the last one that he won?
He was the
dirt jumper of the year.
Yeah, dirt rider of the year. Yeah, so like out of every rider in the world that rides dirt, they voted on him to get this award.
Yeah,
and it's just like a nod in our industry. Like, you've been doing this forever. You're like a legend.
Yeah. So for the people that are listening, whenever Mike's saying like my brother, it's not just like some flippant person that's just like a pair of hands. Like these people are out here building some real shit.
Yeah, like my brother builds arguably the best dirt jumps in the world.
Yeah.
So like he he has sets of trails where people travel from all over the world to come ride with him, and he goes around. It's like riding Big Surf. Like there's only like 100 people that do this.
Me and him were talking about him coming on here. It's going to happen eventually. I'm going to get him on here. He's going to be a god. Well, I mean, like, so 9 months for you guys to build this and like kind of put all this together. I mean, like, what are some of like, did you encounter any huge problems in the beginning?
The building was like a wreck. So like, you know, there was slabs we had to re-cement. There was things we had to tear out of walls. Like half the building was the city of Pittsburgh maintenance, and there was just like tar everywhere. Like we literally spent, if we were going to build in like this, like a room, we had to spend 4 to 5 days just like chipping tar, ripping stuff off walls. So like people have no idea like the process that like happened. And then like it was so dusty, like after you did all that, you power washed it too for like a whole day, and then you built. So it wasn't like each room, there was 11 rooms in there. It probably took a week in each room. So I think 11 weeks of just like prepping the room.
Yeah.
So like, it's just as insane. Like one of our like best pieces was called the Woods Jump Room. And just for us to build the phase 1, which there was like 3 phases, it took us 6 weeks to build phase 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys, you know, 9 months goes, you open, you know, what is your expectation as far as, you know, your opening? Was there already like a community of people that were like chomping at the bit to get to this place?
Oh yeah, because we didn't have B Cubed anymore. So B Cubed closed, there was a hole. So there was a base of people chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
We were driving to Rays in Cleveland, Ohio. So like for 3 to 4 years, and that's also sort of why during college I didn't ride that much, is because in winter we didn't even have anywhere to ride. Because I was like, I had to do school stuff or I wanted to go to a party, but then I didn't want to drive to Cleveland, Ohio too on that weekend.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I still probably drove to Cleveland 20 times a year to ride in this like 3 or 4 year span where we had an absence of like a skate park or an indoor facility of some sort.
Yeah.
So like there was a hole and there was people chomping at the bit and they wanted that. So like there was a base customer. There wasn't enough customers at that time to build and pay for this expansive property. Like it's 80,000 square foot. The rent is astronomical.
Well, what was like, you know, what was the idea of what it was going to be? Was it going to be like a membership based, like you can just come in and ride whenever
just
you pay
like a ski slope. So like you could pay for a day pass at a ski slope, or you could get a season pass, or you could do like a punch card and ride 10 times. So like that's like the general model of any skate park or bike park now that is a like for-profit facility.
Now, did you guys have plans to, you know, teach classes and do all this from the beginning?
Yeah, and that evolved. Like we started teaching classes. So like I started the summer camp there. And
was that pretty quick after it opened?
Yeah, it was like a year after it opened. And then the summer camp, like the kids went through summer camp and they're like, well, what do I do now? So then we made a returners camp. And then those kids went through returners camp and they're like, what do I do now? We made an advanced camp.
How do you, and you're the one that's like, you know, making the curriculum?
Yep.
Now, how do you decide that? Like you're a 23-year-old dude that's just like, all right, we're going to figure this out?
Well, you know, it's not just like a 23, like I was a 23-year-old making professional finals, you know what I mean? So like I was able, and also I was like, you know, I enjoyed education. So I was able to like reverse engineer my skills.
Okay. That makes sense. Cause I was going to say, you're so far advanced from like someone who's just like wanting to say like, hey, I've never really rode a BMX bike. How do I do this? Yep. You know, there's probably a learning curve. So like you being able to get on the ground level to these like people that are absolute beginners, you know, was that difficult to like try to
that's a struggle.
Revert
so like
back?
When you're doing that, you're teaching someone a skill you learned like 17 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's hard to even put yourself in those shoes.
Yeah, to like have it in your mind, to be ingrained, like the muscle memory that you've developed that has not even been a thought to you for the last over a decade.
Yeah, I didn't struggle at it for 15 years. Yeah. You know, so it's like it's actually the fun challenge of it, because you literally have to go like, all right, what muscles does this person have? What skills, like, did they play any sports? What did they do? So like you have to like understand their background to figure out where they are, and then realize like, oh, this person can barely jog, but we're going to try to ride a bike today.
Yeah.
And you have to literally learn that about them. And like that's what makes a really good instructor, is being able to assess that person, look where they are, and then design the day that you're going to teach them with and make it work and actually teach them something.
Hell yeah.
And it's like, that's the most rewarding thing about teaching. And it's hard because we'll pull in like somebody that was in the X Games and we'll be like, come help. You're going to teach the advanced class and teach kids how to bunny hop. And they don't even know like the body mechanics of how to explain it. It's amazing. Like I've taught dudes that are way better at bike riding than me how to teach someone how to bunny hop. And they're like, nah, you don't teach it that way. And I was like, all right, I'm going to film you in slow-mo. Let's watch. And they'll do it. And I'll be like, see?
Yeah.
And they're like, holy shit. They're like, I've been teaching people wrong for 10 years.
Well, that's exactly why I asked that question, because like you had so much already into it that like it's an interesting concept to think about, like how to break that down into a curriculum, you know, a starting point, a jumping off point, because it's such like a loaded action to start, you know. Is just I'm going to go ride on these ramps. I mean, it's dangerous. You want to be able to do it, and you know, get people like you said, you wanted to expose them in a safe way and get them accustomed to like riding this different, you know, sort of terrain. And that's interesting.
I'll tell you, just backtracking a little bit, this is why skate is sort of struggling right now. And you said like, oh, I went to this place and they didn't want to talk to me. They were cool guying me, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like imagine you being a 15-year-old skater wanting to buy a skateboard and someone's doing that to you. You're like, and like
100%.
But now with the bike riding mentality, and this is what helps it succeed, is you come in, we do some cool shit in front of you, go, we'll show you. Let's hang out.
Yeah.
We'll sell you a bike. We'll sell you a helmet. We'll get you on the correct bike, the correct helmet, the safest items, and we'll also give you a progression map of how you should go.
Wow.
And we will politely stop you when you're ahead of your tracks, because also often young kids, you've probably seen young kids, they go in and out of sports all the time. But if we keep them relatively safe, and they're never 100% safe, and having fun, they're going to stay in the sport.
Yeah.
And it's cool because then I get to share this thing that I've loved my whole life. I've been doing for almost 30 years.
Yeah, that you're just passionate for.
And I've got to like enjoy the world and make, you know, a ton of friends and, you know, just live a life. And I get to get other kids to do that. And it's cool because there's kids that I taught in summer camp that were then became my summer camp instructors under me.
Hell yeah.
And now they're traveling around, riding all over. Like,
wow. They're
going on like 3 states away trips. And I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, you know, like we got to help these kids grow like in these kind of ways as well. So like, that's what's cool that ended from like the summer camp program, but like it stems from really breaking down these programs and teaching kids in like a good progressive, but like a fun focused way.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the stuff in also mountain biking does this too. Like I mainly do BMX background, but I also hold a certificate for like road cycling. I hold a certificate for mountain biking that's like,
where are these from? Where are these certificates from?
There's PIMBIA, which is the professional, or what is it? PIMBIA, the Professional International Mountain Bike Instructor Association.
Okay.
And they're out of Canada. And there's like 3 schools of thought of education in mountain biking, and they're like one of the schools. And I like their school the most. There's also IMBA and what's the other group? Whatever. But PIMBIA, I like their school of thought, so I got a certification through them. But
that's
like,
cool.
I could go get more, but I don't really need it. But some of it's for insurance reasons, which is a funny side story.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask is you talking about your certification, like as an instructor for like a BMX park, like is there some things that you are required to get?
No, but that's why you actually go get these other certs. Mm-hmm. So if a kid falls in, like they're like, oh, Mike was teaching them something crazy. It's like, no, I was teaching you an internationally recognized curriculum.
Yeah.
So like if someone like falls or like, and it's like, yeah, I scored a 98 in my certificate program. Like I'm a valid and good educator.
That makes sense.
So like that way, when whoever the park is gets sued,
you're credible.
We have some credible like accreditation. So
now, I mean, like your trajectory from just being someone who's involved in the beginning, you know, helping design and everything, to being, you know, the GM of this. Yep. When did you get that title?
I have no idea.
Like halfway through your tenure there?
No, probably like a two-ish years in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many people were working there? Like, was it a smaller group?
I actually love this. At one point, there was like 20 people working there. So I was like,
really?
We're an employer.
What year is this?
Like right before the pandemic, 2018, 2019. And that's like the heartbreaker. We were doing good.
I was just going to say, was it like ripping then?
Yeah, we were ripping like December, or no, sorry. Oh my God, January 2020. We had a meeting. We're like, numbers look good. And we wanted like a social media director and things like that. And it's like, we can do it. And it was January 2020. And then, March hit and it was like, shit.
Well, how long does it take to get to that point? Like, were you guys always busy from the beginning, or did it take a minute to catch on?
It was build. So like, you have to create customers. Like, and that's what summer camp did. That's what birthday parties did. That's what lessons do. That's what like outreach does. That's what, marketing and then word of mouth and whatever. So like, you build. And in the normal trajectory, like people say like you're profitable 5 to 7 years, like around 7-ish years we were being profitable, which was cool. And then the freaking pandemic hit.
Well, whenever you guys started this and like, say you had, how big was the building? 280 square foot.
80,000, yeah.
Okay, so 80,000 square foot. I mean, was the entire area of that building utilized at that point, or did it grow as the years went on?
Day one, it wasn't built. So like it would be like, oh, we go through a season, we stash away $20K, then we build another section.
Okay, that makes sense.
It has to happen in phases.
Yeah.
There's no way to do that unless you have some angel funder or something. It also takes time. Like you're physically building. It's like a house doesn't get built for 2 months, 3 months. So like
for sure,
we're almost building a house every time we build a section. Because you have to have a deck, a deck to roll in. Like that's literally like we had decks in there that were 70 foot by 20 foot wide.
Yeah, that's insane.
So like that's like a house deck or bigger. So, we had to build those and then build ramps. And then we also had to build those to code. So like it could take the abuse of people flying out and jumping up.
Over and over and over.
So yeah, they weren't built junky. You know what I mean? Like we built them well with expensive material because we knew like the beating they were about to take.
So 2018, 2019, you guys are ripping. The fucking pandemic comes in and just beats everyone in the world down. What does it look like whenever that starts to happen and things start to close down? Obviously, you guys were not an essential business.
Yeah. So yeah, we were considered like a gym, which was an essential business eventually. So we actually got to open up in like the second wave of opening up because they like,
when was that? Was that August?
I don't even remember, man.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's all blurred. It's so crazy to think that's almost a half of a decade ago.
Yeah.
But
dang,
it's weird to think about that.
So at some point, I don't even remember what point we opened, but
you guys were shut down for a while.
So we took advantage and we actually made a bike shop in there. Like we always had a small bike shop, like a pro shop, which a normal skate park had.
Yeah. Were you selling like bikes in there and stuff?
Yeah. So we always were doing that a little bit, but then we're like, all right, how do we diversify? And then we're like, let's go full bore on the bike shop. And actually we tore out a section while COVID was happening, and the owner and I just rebuilt this one section and then opened up, and that was actually open because the bike shops were considered essential. So we pivoted and we started selling some of that stuff too. But we had some other cool things, like we sold clothing and bandanas online, and also we got a partnership with Vans, and Vans actually raised, I forget, it was like 25 or 30K for us by selling a wheel mill shoe online, and people bought it.
Wow.
So like we did a lot of cool just like collabs and things during that point to just raise some funds and pay some bills. And our landlords were relatively cool. They gave us like half off rent and that kind of stuff. We still had to pay, which we were closed and paying rent.
Yeah, it sucks.
So like there was just such a hole. Like it was insane, and all that money that we had was just like boo.
Yeah, because you're just paying to try to keep it open while shit's not even.
And we got some of those things, the PPP and whatever, but
ultimately, like, whenever it opens full swing, was 2021. I mean, did you see a decline in people, or did you see like a resurgence of everyone wanting to get back in there?
What was interesting being in the city, and people want to get back in, but we still had to follow some like the mask protocols and the different things. And if we made people wear a mask, half the city would like applaud us and half the city would be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
So it was this interesting battle, and some people were like, I'm not going to wear a mask and ride. And we're like, well, we're legally not allowed to let you. And we actually had the health department like come and check us out before. So we're like, we're following the rules, because if we get shut down, like we are done.
Yeah.
Like there's no bike park. So would you rather not have a bike park and not wear a mask, or wear a mask and have a bike park? And we're
so
like,
crazy.
We're going to wear a mask, so it was just this crazy time. But like, if we would have got shut down again, like we would have been done.
Yeah.
So we just had, like, we followed the rules a good bit, because we're just like, we want to stay open.
So how does it, go from there to, where you guys are now? Because what 2020? Let's say 2021, you're completely open.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever all the masks are gone, I mean, like, do things look okay at that point, or is it just? I mean,
there's a hole because there's loans, and like the wheel mill took out different loans.
Yeah,
and it took out like small business loans and whatever, and to expand the bike part or the bike shop, like so we used that money, and we were trying to dig ourselves out. We did pretty good. Like we did some like our summer camps were growing again. Like we'd have 50 kids a week at summer camp, which is a great summer camp.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So all those programs were doing good. We also made phenomenal like learn to ride lessons. So like I've taught 300 people how to pedal a bicycle, just to pedal. And those like do great. So like all of that helped us build our bike shop, help us rebuild. But eventually I actually leave the park in 2022. I leave to go work for Red Bull for 2 years, actually.
Red Bull.
Yeah.
What, and wait, so where does this Educator of the Year come from? How does this happen?
This is funny. That was sort of like a nod that like I've been educating for so long and I never got like a recognition, which is cool. I really appreciate Bike Pittsburgh doing that.
But is that because you're teaching these things at the wheel mill at that time, all the summer camps and everything? Okay.
So like I just told you I taught 300 people how to pedal a bicycle.
Well, I didn't know if you were doing things like, on the side where
I also help. Like in a couple Fridays I'm teaching learner rides with Bike Pittsburgh. So like I also help Bike Pittsburgh and do other things with like, there's some school programs, there's clubs. I work with a club called Ruach Bike Club. So like I do a lot of things outside of like what is the wheel mill or a bike park too. Like I'm also on my bike and pedestrian committee. I host a kid bike rally every year. We have lessons there. We have adult lessons at different periods of time through the summer.
Wow.
So, I help.
An endless resource. You're an endless resource. So why do you leave the wheel mill?
Unfortunately, money.
Yeah.
We weren't digging ourselves out. I'm the general manager. Where else do I go?
Yeah.
Like I'm getting some raises. Like I actually really like the wheel mill paid people pretty decent. Like some people just taking front counter were getting paid $15 an hour like 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's great.
And you're just taking money, giving people like Gatorades and wristbands like 5 years ago. That's a good pay.
Yeah.
So like we were getting paid decent. Like I bought a house, working for the wheel mill, but I didn't have growth opportunities. I never had a retirement, so like just looking at it, I just did a passion project for 10 years and I had,
Yeah, people got bills to pay. That's what it is.
It's just life, man.
Yeah, it's life. Life happens. What were you doing for Red Bull?
Just like promo work for them. I was running this crazy, it's called their event vehicle and it's this big DJ booth and you go to like parties, mountain bike races, ski races, like their branded events, and you essentially throw a party. So it was a lot of fun. And I did that for 2 years. And as the wheel mill was closing, and this role was just like, I wanted to grow out of that role too. And I was like, all right, like some things didn't pan out at Red Bull. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to go and make another bike park as like the wheel mill was closing.
When did this happen?
I just left Red Bull last month.
Oh shit! So it's pretty fresh.
Is fresh, yeah. Like some people don't even know I probably left Red Bull yet.
When does exclusive on I'll Call You Right Back podcast?
A lot of people know, but
when does the wheel mill close officially?
February. Wait, hold on. They announced it February 17th. They closed officially March 17th.
Because I remember seeing
Something
that,
like that,
and I remember seeing them having like a last like resurgence merch, everything like that, trying to like do whatever they can.
Yeah.
That closes, and how does the TBA bike park come to play?
So I'm of course a longtime partner and friend of the owner, and I was like, we want to take the ramps and figure out something.
What was his idea? What was he doing? Was he getting out of the game?
Yeah. So, COVID wore him down.
Yeah, I bet.
There's bills and things. And he's just like,
Juice ain't worth the squeeze.
Yeah. He's like, I'm done. And, he's not a bit older. He's like 10 years older than me and a little old. I think he's 15 years older than me. And he's just done. He's just like, I'm tired, and he wants to go live a life, do some other stuff than a bike park. So he decides to pull the plug. He tells us we only have a little bit of time, so we have to like scatter and rush and And we tried to save the park and it didn't work out. So then
What do you mean you tried to save it? Like you guys intended to keep that
so we were talking to the landlord and like trying to work out a deal to take over the lease and do these things in it. And they had a better offer because, the owner was working on getting out and they got a better offer. And it was a good offer to rent for a better price. So
the owner was a fucking pickleball player, wasn't he?
He's
No,
not.
I'm just
He's
kidding.
not a pickleball.
I'm literally
player, yeah.
just kidding.
And I don't hate pickleball. Actually,
I thought I offended you whenever
Nah.
I texted you. So I
I was fucking
texted
with you.
Mike whenever we were talking about this, and I was like, I can't wait for you to come over. Just so you know, I'm a pickleball player, so this is going to be interesting. This joke, obviously, is not really like a joke, but that ultimately that's what went in the Will Mill area, right?
yeah, and it's open right now, soft opening already.
Oh, is it?
Which, like, I don't hate on pickleball. Like, I was the captain of my tennis team in high school.
Were you?
And I played pickleball all the time.
I know. I feel like pickleball now is definitely getting its resurgence, but like I had a weird gym teacher who had us playing pickleball
too.
and badminton.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I was playing it a long time ago, and like now to see everyone like, you know, get back to it and like, you know, have this like crazy resurgence, and then you have like a fucking warehouse, a 60,000 foot warehouse that people are going to be
80.
or 80. That's insane.
And think they're spending, you know, thousands of dollars on rent and they're going to make it through pickleball.
But do you know why it is? Because there's old rich people that could play
Yep.
pickleball all the time, and you're not having a lot of old rich people BMXing all the time.
Yep.
And that's like, it's crazy to think about that. It's like you never really had a chance.
Yep.
So I mean, you talk to him and he's, you know, tapping out, and you guys say you want these like, you know, materials and the ramps and everything. What are your ideas from there? When did that happen? February?
February, like we talked a little bit before the announcement. It was like February 10th, something
Yeah.
like that. And by February 17th, it was announced the wheel mill's closing March 17th. I don't know if that's the exact date, but it
Were
was
you
a
like
month.
shocked at that?
Oh, I mean, after I left, I saw some of the numbers and the programs and the stuff, and I knew it possibly wasn't doing the best.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was some good things. Like we hosted this thing called the Winter Welcome Jam. It's an event my brother Mark and I host every year, and it was the best one we've ever had. It was the most profitable. It was, you know, it was a great event. So like there are some like ups and downs and that kind of stuff. So we didn't know, but the owner was hinting stuff like, oh, this might be the last season. But what was interesting is we were building some new ramps for them because he needed some help, and I just hopped in and helped him. And he was like, oh, this might be the last year. We don't know. Like, you know, things are tough, but like but I've also heard that like 10 times. So, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, so you don't
things
know
have
when
been
it is to happen.
I mean, during COVID, you know, there was like 2020 and 2021, like that was said like every day. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So just like, maybe, you know, so
what do you guys do with all the ramps and everything?
we got a huge crew of people and we tore them down.
How long did
And
that take?
About a month and a half. And I was working another job, going there at night, going there on weekends. Like there was weeks I saw my wife for like hours.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, but like I also had to travel with my job with Red Bull. So I was like traveling, and then I would like get home, like eat dinner with my wife and be like, I'm gonna go do 2 hours at the wheel mill.
You're
and
just
like
burnt.
And so we bought 3 shipping containers, packed those to the gills, ran out of room, and then we got 6 equivalent of like 2 Soul garages, and they are just packed to the gills.
Why don't you, I mean, do your parents still have that property?
We could go out there. It's just 40 minutes away.
Oh,
So like,
yeah.
like the trailer time.
Yeah,
and
to
also,
take it all the way out there and
then
have to
also
bring it back.
We're like, we were hoping we'd get a building even before we're talking right now.
Yeah.
And there was some buildings we could have just pulled on a lease, but we're trying to buy.
Yeah.
And that's what's taking us a little bit longer
Who's
than we
we?
want. So we have a crew right now. It's my brother Mike Potoczny, myself, a friend Justin Cummings, Rich Rostrasher, and David Bartek. If you remember that shop Blasphemy in the South Side.
Yeah, I know Dave.
Dave.
I know Dave well.
So Dave,
I was on their street team
oh, sick.
a long time ago.
You want to be on the TBA street team?
Let me know, dude.
Sick.
That's interesting to think that like you know you have these people like 5 or 6 yinz that are like, you know, banding together to try to like, you know, make this shit happen.
I mean, there's way more. Like, we're going to have eventually more partners in certain ways, whether it's like financial or they're helping like the future plan, which you'll hear in a minute. Like, we want to have a brewery there. We want to have a restaurant. So like there's people that are bike riders that are restaurateurs, and they might be our partners, you know, and we're just working on ideas and working through these processes. So like there's going to be a very cool like combination of people creating this, and it's going to be a bunch of different worlds like colliding.
Where, I mean, like, so TBA, to be announced bike park.
Yep.
Obviously is that a tentative name? I feel like you got to keep it now.
It's a joke. Like, do you ever see Arrested Development?
No.
And they have there's this whole joke that they have. They're this rich family that's making a fundraiser, and they don't know what charity, so they call the charity TBA, and it's just a joke.
That's even better.
Yeah. So watch there's like a first video, and like that's the joke. It's just like, and the people that know it like were dying in laughter, and like, I mean, I think it's funny, but we actually like the name, and we might keep it.
You should. It got to be that now.
And we could just play on that joke forever.
Yeah.
You know, and just beat a dead horse and make it.
It just, I mean, it's a nice, it sounds good. TBA, like it has a nice ring to it.
And we can play it in a lot of ways. But I mean, the thing is, like I was saying earlier, though, like our goal with a name is we want it to be like, explain what the bike park, like sort of what the bike park is, but we want it to be very friendly, which TBA is friendly. Like bike riding used to be a macho sport, you know, and like mainly male dominated. So we want to, you know, we want to make our world far more friendly. So like, that's also why we've been just thinking of a name so much. And I think because we're putting so much weight on it, it's not flowing out right yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have like literally like a 200 like page, not page list, but like name list of just names that we like relatively like. And we're just literally beating our heads off.
The hardest thing you could ever do is just think of a name.
I know. And then we look at all the other bike parks and all these other places and skate shops and bike shops we like, and they're usually just named like after the road they're on.
Yeah.
And we're just like, and that's what's hard. Like we need to get the facility, and it could, you know, lead us to the name.
Yeah. It's like analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
You're just like thinking of shit. So, I mean, like, where are yinz at right now with this? Like, you're obviously trying to find a place to put this.
Yep. So we've visited, I think we've been about 20 properties or buildings we've looked at already.
All local in the city?
Yeah. Some are a little bit out. Like, you know, like we don't want to go like to like Robinson.
Yeah.
Or,
I was
like,
just going to say, what's the furthest you want to go?
Like Carnegie or like Homestead, like that. Like we don't want to go past that. You know what I mean? Or like Swissville, or, you know, those kind of areas. But also the chunk of our customers are from Homewood, Squirrel Hill, you know, Point Breeze, Highland Park.
The more accessible to all these areas, the better.
So that's where like the base is. So like we're trying to hunt buildings there, and there's one building in East Liberty area that we like. There's one in Homesteadish that we like. So those are the ones. Like right now we have 3, and we're building out a plan, and we do have some investors that are interested. So we're actually going to pitch those next week to them and go, you want to invest? Like, you want to pay for this?
Yeah.
And that's actually next week. So we're building. I'm actually meeting after this meeting. So that's how like crazy life's been. Like when I saw it, like when I first saw you today, I was like, it's busy.
Yeah.
You know, like today actually was my last physical. I had to do something for Red Bull today. Actually, it was like my last task for them was handing over all of my equipment, and I did that this morning. I'm here. 8:30 I meet with the TBA bike crew. So like,
wow,
it's literally like that's been my days though. Like I've been just like,
yeah, boys are buzzing.
Yeah. Well, we also are trying to like we're also doing stuff at like Bike Pittsburgh. We're doing stuff with Open Streets. We're supporting other events because we also want to keep our, you know, the bike riding world engaged here. Because also the wheel mill was some of the education for a large portion of the people of like what to do, how to do it. So we're trying to like continue that and
like keep that momentum going.
So we're doing that on top of talking to lawyers, making like, you know, how like our business agreements, you know, talking to investors, talking to potential partners. So like we're just literally like, I'm here on this podcast. Like I've talked to hundreds of people already just to promote this concept and this community that's incredible. That like I'm sure you even saw relatively the outcry when the wheel mill was closing. Like, the hurt was actually insane. Like, it's like, it's some of the biggest hurt I've seen out of any business closing in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, it got to be, because if it's the only place where, you know, this community of people have to call home and it's not there anymore, and it kind of gets like torn away, it kind of a quick, you know, drop of a hat, I would say.
It wasn't expected, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you can't ask for anything more. I'm sure that if this guy, you know, knew and like, shit can't be as far in advance as you want. But I mean, like, how do you approach, how do you approach where you're at now as far as like, is it all just like waiting until you guys can get some investors behind you?
We should have the investors actually right now. It's now we have to acquire a property.
Yeah.
And the one thing our model is a little bit different is it's not different. Any of your friends that own businesses, like we're going to try to buy the building. Like, unfortunately, bike parks don't make that much money. Certain things that like skate shops, bike shops, some of them don't make that much money.
Rent's outrageous.
So if you can own a building and then sell it in 30, 40 years, that's how you're going to make money.
Yeah.
So, the Wheelmo paid a lot of money in rent, a lot.
Yeah.
So if we can buy a building that's worth a couple $1 million and we're not going to make that much money. Like, and like while we're working on it,
it's going to like mitigate some of that like crazy overhead that people are just like lumping on top of you.
Well, there's a skate park right now that's over 25 years old in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it was just announced this week that the owner of the building, not the skate park, is selling the building. And the skate park might go out of business because whoever buys the building can just hunt them out. So that is the story of 50% of the skate parks in America.
Yeah, I bet.
So like a lot of them weren't doing bad. It's either landlord raised the rent a ton.
Yeah. Or they sell it and they get busted out.
Yeah. So like that's the typical tale. So we're going to try to break that. And we know the numbers from the wheel mill and we know there's a price point of like a mortgage we can pay.
Yeah.
So if we can get that, bring those customer base, but also try to offer more services. Hopefully we do make a little bit of money, but it's going to be this is another experiment. Like I just did a 10-year experiment and now it's doing the next 10 years of experiment. So but hopefully it lasts way longer than 10 years.
So I saw that you do you did some sort of like, a little bit of like crowdfunding in the way of like a t-shirt, things like that. Do you plan on doing more things like that, giving people the opportunity to invest in this place that they eventually will be able to call theirs?
Oh yeah. We're going to be doing a lot of crowdfunding when we're getting closer to the building out of the business phase because we will need capital for that. Like we're going to run out of money buying the building
for sure.
And then we're going to need to build the physical business that's going to be in that building. So we're going to have something that's a GoFundMe, an Indiegogo, whatever it is. Like we're already prepping that work and looking which one's better, how we're going to do it, what we're going to ask for. But that will be out and might be out by the time this is out. I'm not sure, but it'll be in a couple, at least. I mean, this will probably be out. Probably 2-3 months from now is when we'll start those campaigns, and we'll need help because like we're putting our life savings and our equities on the line to get this thing to work. So, this community, like if you really want this thing, like this is going to be a community asset. Like, and we need help from anyone. If you can give us $5, $10, $100, whatever it is, like that's going to buy a sheet of ply. That's going to buy, coping, whatever it is. Like we're literally like. The more you give us, the more we're going to build,
better it's going to be,
the better it's going to be. And like, I just left a job that I had a very good salary so I can make a bike park, which we just had one fail. So I'm just like, sometimes when I'm talking to someone, I'm like, if you want this, you got to help a little bit.
Yeah.
like I don't want it to sound weird, but it's just like, this is a community asset, and like, we're going to help future generations of kids and families ride and have fun and grow and learn a ton of stuff. Like you probably learned a bunch from skating when you were little.
Yeah.
Like there's so much things that we're going to teach kids life lessons and then adults are going to continue friendships and have fun and just have a place to hang out like at this facility at TBA Bike Park. We'll see if it's TBA, but
I think you should keep it. Yeah. I mean, how do, people that are listening right now, it's like, how could they keep tabs on what's going on with this?
So we have an Instagram. It's just at TBA Bike Park. We'll be building other media at that time or like over time. But if you also, we'll have other media just building from there. But at TBA Bike Park,
that's the best place right
now. Yeah. And we're building an email list right now. And eventually I will have a way for you to sign up for that email list at TBA Bike Park on Instagram. So please sign up. That way when we do drop some fundraisers and you want to be a part of it, I can get you that information.
Yeah. Wow. This is it's heavy.
It's heavy, man.
And what you're doing is heavy.
But it's so cool though. Like
the risk it's a high risk, but it's going to be a higher reward.
Yeah, and it's uncharted waters. Like it's slightly charted. It's like 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 Europe's that way, and then, but halfway through you don't know where to go, So like, I know how to get halfway to Europe, but like, we're going to get there, but there's things like, when I was a general manager, there was like revenue sources that I wanted to go down, and I feel, and I looked at our numbers, and I feel like we can grow upon. So like, like I said, we're going to have some other businesses, possible restaurants or breweries or bigger bike shops or different rental programs. So like, there's going to be different things in our facility that weren't in the wheel mill.
Yeah. And who's better to do it than you guys? You guys have been in it forever.
Yeah.
You're like the grizzled old man in Jaws that they hired to go on hunting sharks.
Yeah.
Except you'll come out in the end. Either way, I mean, do you think that there's anything that I forgot to touch on with the bike park? Anything you wanted to highlight?
I mean, there's so much. I mean, that was 10 years, like there's so much stuff. And the one thing that I'm trying to tell people is like, the wheel mill was a home to customers in general, but we also were a home to Ruach Bike Club, which is a bike club that services a lot of kids from Homewood and the north side.
What's it called? Ruach? Ruach.
Yeah. It's like, it means like the breath of life. And it's a guy that just like loves cycling, and his name is Mike White. He's an awesome dude. And I support that club as much as I can. And they're a great group, but like all their bikes were stored in the wheel mill. They had a weekly class in the wheel mill, and it's gone.
Yeah.
And now they're scrambling. And then we had a women's night every Monday night, a free lesson with this woman named Karen Brooks, a great instructor. They don't have that anymore. We hosted the Frigid Bitch after race, and they also had some different events.
What's that?
The Frigid Bitch is a women's only race, women's non-binary riders, and they race in the middle of February.
Where do they race?
They'll start somewhere like they started in Lawrenceville. It's called an alley cat. So you'll get this script, and it'll say like, find this thing, and it just has a wacky clue, like, but it will mean like at the top of the incline, it'll be like,
oh wow,
it's where the carts end, and they have to go up to the top of the incline, and they get like a stamp every time they find these places.
Oh, that's cool.
And then they have to race back to the wheel mill, and they like the last 2 years the wheel mill was their home for the end, and like they need a new place now. And
Jesus.
Yeah, and then we had
everything's compacting on itself.
Exactly. So like, and then we have a children's based event called the Next Generation Jam, and there's usually 300 kids from all over America that come and ride at the wheel mill, and like that doesn't have a home anymore. And then my brother and I host an event called the Winter Welcome Jam, and it's just like that one's like a party and a celebration of the BMX scene in the Pittsburgh region, and that doesn't have a home right now either. So like it just, and like there was a bike riding summer camp, there's not one now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Are you still pretty active? You ride bikes?
Oh yeah,
good bit still.
I've been injured a little bit this year, and I've been sick, unfortunately. So like this year I haven't ridden as much as I want to, but I'm gonna start riding a lot more. Like I'm going to New York on Thursday to ride and host another event out there. So there's just worlds of people that don't have their homes though. So like it's just interesting, and it's pretty sad. Like that's one of the reasons why I want to make a bike park.
Yeah, that's depressing what you just said. All these places that like don't have anywhere to.
Well, there was grown men like crying to me because their kids love the bike park, and there's some kids that are like special needs or like in the bike riding world and the skating world's really accepting often, especially now. And there's some kids that like there's dads going up and like, this is the only place my kid felt normal.
Yeah,
and it's like.
Yeah, a place to keep people off the streets.
Yeah.
Just a place for people to go.
And like
depressing.
Yeah, and like the last days of the wheel mill, I almost wanted to wear a suit and like hand out the cards and like, but it felt like a funeral. Like I was like shaking people's hands, and people were hugging me and like crying, and like it was wild.
Yeah.
But think like we just had this home it was open almost 11 years to the public.
Yeah, it's like your clubhouse, and it just shuts down.
And it was just gone. Like 1 month notice, see you later. So
that is a shame.
Yeah, so that was wild. But like I want people to realize like how much of a home and essential thing, because also like you go to a skate park and you often don't have the opportunity to like meet other people. And what's nice at the wheel mill, like you can meet a pro rider, you can meet a really good rider, you can meet who could be your instructor, your summer camp instructor, and there's a lot of great facilities in the Pittsburgh region, and that's actually why an indoor bike park struggles, is because there's like 30 free places to ride within like an hour and a half of here. But that's awesome. But the wheel mill gives like a different home for people and resources, and you know there's tools and a bike shop and you know all of these things, because also we don't have a good BMX shop in Pittsburgh. So like even myself, I'll be like, oh shoot, I don't have this brake part, and I literally have to mail order it from one of my friend's shops, but like I have to call someone and mail order it. I can't get it in Pittsburgh.
Old Dan's comp.
Yeah.
Is that still around?
It's still around. It's been owned by like 4 people, but
yeah, I bet. That's so wild. It's wild to think that there's not a bike shop here too, like a BMX shop.
there's not a BMX shop. And if we go down the route, we might build a building. We might just open up a bike shop too. Like we might just have one somewhere for a year or two while we're going through this other process. Bandwidth's an issue, of course, but we might just do it and just be open 2 or 3 days a week, just so like
just to someone have a place,
come and grab it. Yeah,
yeah.
It's also a place to meet up. It's also a place to like
sell some merch, gain some funds that way too.
Yep.
You guys got to start pumping out merch.
Yeah.
You got to just settle on the name TBA Bike Park.
There will be by the time you release this, we will have another TBA merch sale. There'll be a pre-sale, and it's through Ink Division. And Ink Division is a good friend of ours. They were an old bike company called Square One. If you remember Square One,
I do remember that.
Yeah,
is that really what Ink Division is?
They were the printer's first Square One.
Really?
And then Square One went out of business, and they just kept on going because when Square One wasn't printing anything, they would print, because they were on the south side, they would print like like Ruggers or whoever, like someone's bike shop or
I did not know that.
And then they were just like, well, we need a job, so they just kept on printing. So yeah, they're just like lifelong friends of ours, and it's cool. So like everything we do is also like we just help each other all the time, and that's what's going to happen with the restaurants and the breweries and our merch. Everyone's
cross-pollinating.
All Pittsburgh, and we cross-pollinate a lot. And like that was what was happening at the Wheel Mill. We probably did a bad job of letting people know, like, hey, you're just helping out a bunch of other Pittsburghers. Like even when you buy our T-shirt, you're helping us, but you're also helping Ink Division out. And we did a lot of that. Like most of our stuff was like 100% local, other than weird stuff like hats. Sometimes you can't find a vendor, but
I get what you're saying.
But if there was a vendor in Pittsburgh, we used them.
I know, that's what I do too. Stickers, T-shirts, anything, all my merch, everything is from. I try to get it done as local as I can. Designing, all that.
Yep.
It's important. You got to invest in your community.
Or we keep it within bike riding. Like some of our graphic designers,
I'm sure,
aren't in
other
Pittsburgh,
people,
but they're from our bike riding world.
Oh yeah.
And just good friends. So.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm excited to see what you guys do with it. It's definitely wild. It definitely gives me a level of anxiety, so I can't even imagine how you guys feel about it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you came to talk to me about this. This is, as someone who, like, I observed it. I knew what it was. I knew the power it held with people. And what I didn't know is, like, unfortunately all the bad stuff, but I feel like you got to tell the bad stuff for people to make an impact on people.
Oh yeah.
To understand that. And you talking about the classes and all the people who don't really have a home for this now is, I feel like enough for, people that might not even be BMX riders to, kind of for it to, make their ears flicker and, pique their interest to know that even though you're not riding BMXs, you could still invest in a pivotal part of the community of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's had a venue close. They've had
someplace
they've had a bar close that they like, and like this is just another thing. Like if you get anything from this, like just go. Even if you don't want to go to that restaurant, still just buy something every once in a while. Like there's restaurants that I always want to be there, and I make sure I eat from them all the time.
Yeah,
and just like support those people, because like it's weird as you get older. Sometimes you like quit eating at like going out to eat or quit going out to the bar, whatever it is. But if you want it around, like you need to support in some way, or just go in and buy a T-shirt, like,
hell yeah.
Yeah. Don't waste, but support them in a way that you can.
Don't waste, but support.
Yeah.
All right. That's good stuff. All right. Well, I'm not done with the episode yet. We're not done. You got to do an ending segment. I do an ending segment with everyone. It's called Desert Island Questions. Wrong part. All right, Desert Island Questions. Whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island, use until they starve to death and die. First category is movies.
Movies.
What are 3 movies that you would take with you to watch over and over and over again for the rest of your life?
I would take Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Amazing.
It's one of my favorite comedies of all time.
It probably is one of the best comedies ever.
It is unreal. I quote it probably every day of my life, unconsciously. I mean, say something, and I'm just like, oh yeah. Okay.
Honestly, I would pay a good bit of money to see the play at the end.
Yeah.
I would pay a good bit of money.
He did it. Did you know that?
Did he?
Yeah, he did it like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, but it was only like
it was
one or
in
two
LA
in
for a
California
couple
or something.
times,
Yeah. But it would be sick if it was touring. Like, do you watch What We Do in the Shadows?
Oh yeah, I love that.
Like
show.
that,
And
like that fucking play that they did, the finale of like season 2 or 3, where they did like that whole play. Like, I would pay a crazy amount of money for that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, Forgetting Your Sarah Marshall, second one.
There's a classic BMX film, Road Fools 3. I would watch that on repeat.
Road Fools 3.
So remember that MTV show that was like Road Rules?
Yeah.
They just did in the 90s, they did BMX ones where they would go on like a 20-day road trip and like do stupid stuff. And
Like
have
King
fun.
of the Road for skating?
Yeah, same thing. But this
Okay.
was like, in the 90s and it was rad. And that one is so good. I can just watch it. I can quote to you like,
Where can you get that? Can you watch that somewhere?
you could probably go on, it's a Props Visual. That's the company that made it. And you could probably get it on their website still, but you can buy they made like 16 of them and you can buy like a DVD package. Or
Oh, that's
Blu-ray of
cool.
it. And it's
Okay.
like a way they still make money.
What about third?
Third, man, I don't want to go with another comedy, but Dumb and Dumber is just coming to my head.
It's a good one.
Yeah. I was talking to a random friend, like someone I'm not that good of friends with, but they like asked me an off the wall question. They're like, what's your favorite 90s comedy? And I was like, that is a very particular question. Like,
Loaded.
and I was just like, same thing. I quote Dumb and Dumber every day. Like,
Yeah.
I'll say, like, so you're saying there's a chance, just like on repeat.
I got worms.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's going to be one of our next memes for the bike park. And it's like, I got ramps. That's the name of our bike park. I got ramps.
Hell yeah. That's good
Because
stuff.
I have ramps.
You should. You
have a
should do
ton of
that.
ramps.
Make it the name. Okay, second category. I usually ask people 3 books that they would
3
take. Do you have
books.
3 books that you would be able to name quickly?
Man. Let me think about this. I would take 3 books from Kurt Vonnegut because I love Kurt Vonnegut.
Which ones? I've never read any of
You've
his
never
yet.
read any?
No, I'm a new reader. I started reading like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
But before that, I read The Outsiders and The Giver growing up. Everything else, Spark Notes and copying off people in
You're
school.
a reader now.
I'm a voracious reader now.
Man, there's this one book that's like a memoir of his. It's when he was dying. It's called A Man Without a Country. And it's just a bunch of little short stories and things. And some are
that.
fictitious, some are just like little anecdotes. And it's fucking hilarious. Like, have you like laughed out loud from a book before?
Yeah.
Like, this guy is one of the only guys like I'll be reading and I'll just fucking laugh out loud.
I would get that.
And you can literally read any of his books and they're amazing.
Okay.
I'll give you a list in a minute. Like,
Okay, that's good.
I
Now-
literally read so much that I can't even.
Yeah, it's
decide
too
which
much.
one.
It's thrown at you. That's why I don't tell people this in the beginning. I just want people to have whatever's popping in their mind. But let me switch for a second.
Yeah.
If you had to pick, I know you picked your one, the BMX video that you picked,
Yeah.
or what was it called?
Props Road Fools.
Road Fools. That's
Yeah.
it. Now, if you had to pick, do you have like 2 of your favorite BMX videos of all time?
Yeah, Props Road Fools is one of my favorites. One of my favorites is actually a Pittsburgh one. It's called Welcome to Pittsburgh, and it was made by a guy named Bobby Valentine.
Yeah, I interviewed him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Oh,
him
yeah,
and
yeah,
Julie.
yeah.
Great people.
He made videos in
I
like
know
the
that.
2000s, and they were so
Yeah,
good. They're incredible.
I actually seen one whenever I was researching him.
Yeah.
because Caudle put me on to him. Caudle puts me on to all kinds of good people. But for people that are listening now, they are Valentine Carpentry. They make the best furniture I've seen. Pretty much anywhere.
I got a piece in my house. It's lovely.
What kind?
I just had to put in a countertop.
Yeah.
And I needed just legs and just this little thing.
Dude.
And then actually I had wood sitting around at the wheel mill, and Bobby had like these really good just like templates for me. He's like, we got it. So like I have a a countertop from Bobby, which is great.
The man, killing it.
I eat breakfast at it every day.
That's good. Welcome to Pittsburgh. How many did he make?
4.
4, right?
So good.
Okay.
And he never made a 3. He just had 1, 2,
Yeah,
and
skipped
4.
it. Okay,
and then he had like another random one but he also helped some other people make other videos, like that company Square One. Like they had some split projects and things like that. But so he probably made 5 or 6.
Okay. What about one more? Like a big name, not one of the
So the brand
undergrounds.
Etnies.
Yeah.
Yeah, made this video called Forward in like the mid 2000s, and it was like one of the most groundbreaking videos ever. But like music, aesthetically,
Really?
and the riding. and they put like a lot of money in it. Endy's was actually kind of big in BMX for a long time.
I didn't know that.
And people, like unless you're in bike riding, you didn't know. But like this video was just like, we watched it and we're just like, oh my God, this is what bike riding can be.
Wow.
And they like set the tone for like parts of a generation. Another one actually is Wide Awake Nightmare, which was made by Square One. And that was like one of the best videos made ever.
I got to watch some of these.
Yeah. And then actually another one's popping in my head is, do you remember the brand Little Devil?
Yeah.
They had a video. My God, why can't I think of it? It's Criminal Mischief. And it just had this guy, Van Homan, that had like one of the best street parts of all time. Like you still would watch and be like, that's pretty fucking crazy. And it was made like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's wild that can stand up.
That's wild for sure.
Yeah. But it's wild that these videos also affected us. And this is what I like about my life now is like, we affect kids' music taste, art taste.
Dude, the music that I would get in skate videos and stuff like that, it's insane. Shit you would never even expect it to be in there.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense though. Like it's an easy thing to like get obsessed with.
Yep.
Like those cultures.
Oh, yeah.
It's edgy, but it's also like, still very unique.
Yep.
All right, that's good. What about third category, 3 CDs.
CDs. Nice. Man. I would take Blink 182 Enema of the State.
Okay.
Because it's literally, I can listen to one of those songs and know the next song.
Yeah.
You know how that goes.
Yeah.
And just like, I randomly listen to it, like a nostalgia song, and I'm just like, oh, why isn't this, like, this song's next? And it just doesn't come up. But like, every time I listen to any one of those songs, I think about that. I'm like, I just want to listen to the whole CD.
Takes you right back to being a kid.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Okay.
And also Sessions at B Cubed and all that stuff. So that's an amazing memory. That's just like, not even just the nostalgia of the era. Like it's like even just like particular days. Like I even remember riding to certain ones, these songs at like Sessions when we were a kid. That album would be great. Man, some of my mixtapes would be great. I actually just found my CD collection.
No way.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
wild.
What's the first CD you ever bought?
Ooh, this is hilarious. It was the single of Save Ferris, Come On Eileen.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know why I bought that, but it's a great song.
Yeah, because I was like, you're like a year older than me. I was like, that's a little bit late, I feel.
I don't know.
That's all right, though.
I mean, my older brothers bought a lot of the records ahead of me. So, like, we also just had those, you know.
All right. Last one.
Trying to think of what record I listened to all the time at home. Perfect. This is it.
Professional.
Man, Billy Joel the Stranger. It is
Hell
so
yeah.
good.
That's a classic.
Dude,
Can't beat
listen
it.
to the whole thing. I've had it in like every form. CD,
Go over and over
tape,
again.
and vinyl.
That's good stuff.
You can listen to that one all day.
All day.
Yeah.
Okay. Third to last question. This is a bonus question. What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Actually, funny. A tie. Billy Joel and Elton John.
That's been picked on here.
Incredible tour.
It's been picked on here.
I don't know which tour that was, but I got to go see one of those tours, and that was awesome. And then my older brother used to work for bands, and he worked for Roger Waters.
No
I saw
shit.
Roger Waters do the whole Dark Side of the Moon, and it was fucking incredible. Like
I
it felt
bet.
like spiritual. Like
Jesus.
and the crowd was just like so stoked. I saw it in Philly, and like his performances are so good, but also his production value was so good. And it just like it was
Insane.
like mind melting, and that was an incredible show.
Those
were high end shows.
Those are great answers.
I mean, I've seen a lot of low end shows that are incredible, but like that,
those are what stick out.
yeah.
Hell
I mean,
yeah.
I also like my brother was in production, so like I also like always critiquing production and sound and lighting and all that stuff. So like those shows were just like, holy fucking shit. These are like,
Those are good answers.
Yeah.
Okay, third to last question is you're getting ready to go on a road trip. You go into a gas station. You pick up a snack. What is it?
Reese's Cups.
Reese's Cups?
So good.
Hell yeah. A freezing? I put them right in the freezer. Can't beat it.
Yeah. They actually have, because I worked for Red Bull, so when I'd be in businesses, I would look at like what's in the cooler.
Yeah, they have them on the door.
Yeah, and they also at Walmart's they have Reese's Cup freezers. Like
really?
It's depending on which one you're at, but like I actually pay attention to it because I was just that was my business for a while, and I was like, wow, Reese's Cup freezers.
Been a minute since I had a Reese's Cup.
Yeah, let's go right now.
Let's go right now. All right, second to last question is the death row meal.
Oh,
Death row meal, you get an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert before you get put to death. What are they?
appetizer. I really like fried zucchini.
Amazing.
I have celiac disease, but when somebody can make me a gluten-free fried zucchini, I lose.
What happens if you eat? What happens if you eat it?
I just get sick, like stomach sick.
You're just like shitting.
Yeah, annihilated. Yeah.
How long has that happened?
4 days.
No, I mean like how long have you been?
Sorry.
Long time.
9 years, 8-9 years.
That's wild.
Yeah. And like you just get sick for days, but you also get like fatigue and brain. Like you know how COVID you had brain fog. Like,
Yeah.
you get brain fog too.
Huh.
And you just like you're just exhausted for 4 days just because you eat gluten.
Putting poison in your body.
Yeah.
Okay, so a gluten-free fried zucchini.
Yeah, unreal. That'd be amazing.
A main course.
Main course. I'd love a good veggie like asparagus, a good fillet.
Yeah, those are
Just
usually
mashed
what's
potatoes,
picked.
man.
That's always picked, like a fillet of mashed potatoes and an asparagus or something. All right, dessert.
Dessert.
If you're allowed to have gluten, if it, all bets were, you're about to die. So I
Dude,
mean, whatever you want.
Yeah, and just I'd shit all over the.
Yeah.
Take care of me. Like,
Someone said
Fuck
that they
you.
want to have like they wanted to go to all you could eat like Mexican buffet and eat until they vomited. So whenever they right before they
that'd be
died,
unreal. I mean,
they would want to do that.
man, I would eat so much gluten then.
What about the dessert though?
I would love to have my grandpa's apple pie again.
Oh yeah,
Or just some vanilla ice cream.
that's
That'd
good.
be shredded.
Someone just picked their mother's berry pie.
Yeah.
The other day.
Oh man.
Okay, that's a good answer. Last question: if you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Probably Kurt Vonnegut, that
Yeah.
author I was telling you about earlier. He makes, dude. I've never laughed and like got so much wisdom from like somebody just writing.
He died in the early 2000s, or was that Bukowski?
I forget when he died. I definitely looked it up before.
I'm gonna have to read one of them. I'm gonna have to read some of them. I see them on all the
and they're
lists.
easy reads.
Yeah.
And he'll go down rants, and I just want to hear one of his rants, man. Like he'll be telling you a story, and he'll break the fourth wall and then just rant as who he is.
Yeah, I'm
And
all
just-
into that.
It is hilarious.
I'll have
So
to check it. That's a good answer, though.
I'd love to talk to that guy.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming over and talking to me about all this, dude.
Thank
This
you.
was a wonderful conversation. Please, again, tell everyone where they could follow you, follow your work, where they could, keep up to date on TBA Bike Park.
Yep.
Whole deal.
Mainly Instagram. So you can follow me at Michael Potoczny on Instagram. And you can follow our bike park journey at TBA Bike Park on Instagram.
That's it. Yeah, dude. Once all this shit, starts rolling out, we got to get you back on here. Maybe a couple
Maybe a
other
check-in here and
Yeah,
there.
get a check-in. Let's, anything I could do to be of service and like try to help this. Like I'm down for it. So you just let me know.
We'll just be yinzers helping yinzers,
That's all I want to do, dude.
Yeah.
That's why I started this fucking show. I just want to highlight the people in the city doing dope shit and everyone else that's listening. Appreciate all yins as usual.
Yep.
Each and every week, we're back with another person like this, teaching the youth, getting people off the streets, wanting to do something great for our city. Each and every week, we got another great guest doing great things for our city. Thank you all for listening. Call you right back.